Our first presenter, Jim Harp, brings his VR equipment to every meeting and shares his experience and talent with everyone. He's a great guy. His travels through his profession as a theater musician and consultant have brought him to places far and wide. I know you'll enjoy his work as much as we all do, and take it away, Jim.
Hello, everyone. It's great to have everybody here. I had kind of an interesting perspective on this pandemic as I was playing in China and Japan in January and February with a touring production of the musical Dreamgirls. We played in Shanghai from December 27th through about the 15th. And I remember about the third day I was there, I got an email from my wife saying, you know, I hear there's this pneumonia going on in Wuhan, and she suggested I not eat pork, which is impossible in China. Anyway, I was with this musical production, Dreamgirls, the Broadway show. I took this picture. We had an opening night party after our first performance in Shanghai. And they had a little top 40 band, and different people from the cast came out and sang their favorite R&B songs with the band. And I just like this picture because you can see all the Chinese fans holding up their phones, getting videos of the proceedings. All right, after playing in Shanghai, I had a couple of days off, so I took a trip to Xi'an. Xi'an's about 380 miles west of Shanghai, not too close to Wuhan, fortunately. This is the Wild Goose Pagoda. Xi'an is one of the oldest cities in China. Shanghai is very new and cosmopolitan and modern, but in Xi'an you really get a feel of the old dynasties. Xi'an is famous for the terracotta warriors. The terracotta warriors, you probably all heard of them. They were soldiers that were built for China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, in about 210 BC. This was the guy who united China and began the Qin dynasty. And he was obsessed with immortality. And in fact, he believed that Mercury would make him immortal. This did not work out well for him, but that was his thought. And in fact, his tomb is still sitting in Lishan unopened. It's been unexcavated because he was buried in a river of mercury, and they're afraid if they ever dug it up, it would pollute all the farmland. What you're seeing here is one of the main exhibition halls for the terracotta warriors. Basically, they found these pieces of pottery in farmland, and quickly discovered that what they had actually found was the army that the emperor had built to protect him in the afterlife. This picture shows what's an ongoing project. They've been doing this since the 1970s, putting these guys back together. I had always assumed that they found these terracotta warriors intact in the ground, all ready to march, but actually they were just shards of pottery. When I was there, the guide told us that even though the archaeologists came in the 1970s, for decades, farmers in that area would find these heads, these pieces of pottery. The farmers would use terracotta warrior heads as jars. Some of them thought they were demons and would throw them out. And even though you saw that massive army of them in that last picture, only about a third of them have been excavated. This guy did things in a very big way. And Xi'an is also famous. It has one of China's larger Muslim populations. And there's an area of Xi'an called the Muslim Quarter, which is just wonderful to walk around and get all kinds of exotic foods. A lot of what you'll get there is more based on Afghan and Western Chinese cuisine. You can see some very elaborate rolls here. You can see Chinese delicacy, squid on a stick in various forms. And squid on a stick is not to be missed if you're over there. This is actually back to Shanghai. Even though Shanghai is a very modern and cosmopolitan city, if you go about 40 minutes by subway from downtown, you can get to some really beautiful old, ancient areas. This is a little town called Qibao, Qibao. It's a canal town. It's about 1,500 years old. And what was so nice about it, as I said, you could take the subway there, and even if I was playing a show at night, I could easily go, wander around, explore, take lots of pictures, and still get back in time for work. All right, now we finished playing in Shanghai. Our show closed on January 15th, and I left the country on the 20th, and it was the 23rd when travel restrictions were put in place. So my timing was very good. And then went to Tokyo, where we played for a couple of weeks. Downtown Tokyo is very modern and lots of shiny glass buildings. But if you go about, once again, 40 minutes by subway, there's some beautiful older parts that are still surviving. This is an area of Tokyo called Asakusa, And we're looking here at the Sensoji Temple. It's a big Shinto shrine. As you can see, it was quite crowded. Tokyo has had to put a lot of restrictions in place recently, but while we were there, it was still a very bustling, crowded place. I also had the opportunity to go to Kyoto, which is an older city in Japan. This is a temple in the Gion section of Kyoto, the Asakasa shrine. And I was there late at night. I had a pair of Samsung NX1000s. It was really dark. And I was hoping these cameras would manage with a really long exposure. And they did a pretty good job. Not any of the problems that older digital cameras had with long exposures. This was probably about a 2-minute exposure. And there are a lot in Kyoto, for some reason, there's lots of sculptures of lions and wolves and things. That seems to be a very common theme there. This was one of my favorite things when we were in Japan. You'll see in the United States, a lot of teenagers are into cosplay where they dress up as superheroes. In Japan, the fad seems to be dressing up in vintage classic clothing. And it was very common, especially if you go to historical sites, to see teenage girls in these really beautiful, elaborate kimonos. And as far as I can tell, the whole point of this craze is to get in the nicest looking kimonos you can and then get selfies of you and your friends standing at ancient monuments. So they're not really there for you to take pictures of them, but I took them. And this is my last picture from Japan. One of my favorite things about Japan is they don't just have cat cafes, they have owl cafes. And this was an actual owl cafe. This was a little outside of Tokyo. That is a real owl, and he's there promoting the business. For about $15 or so, you can go and get a cup of coffee and spend some time in the company of a bunch of very nice owls. The owl seemed quite happy to be standing there. He let me take his picture, and I guess he's quite used to being locked up. Anyway, that's it for my images, and I look forward to seeing everyone else. I guess, John, are you going to introduce our next participant?
Yes, threw it to me nice there, Jim. Thank you. The next series of slides are presented by E. James Smith. He's a video editor by day, a musician, composer by night, has taken us on railroad train journeys and trips to historical locations. You may have seen some of his work at several 3D conventions. He's edited many of our 3D videos, which I hope you have a chance to look at on YouTube. So without further ado, take it away, Jamie.
Hey, thanks a lot, John. And thank you, everyone, for coming. We are just knocked out by the attendance at this meeting. We weren't sure if we were going to get anyone. So I'm just going to take you through a few slides. I'm going to start off with sort of the life the way it used to be. This was Times Square. My friend Joel Hinman's there with the W3. And I was kind of showing him the ropes on how to use it. And we went up to Times Square because it's sort of visual. And we were just in front of Madame Tussauds taking some pictures here. So this is this picture of 3 or 4 weeks ago. The rest are going to be shots I took a week or so ago, and they show an entirely different scene. This is my local movie theater with a message for everyone to stay safe and healthy. This is a really beautiful theater. I think a lot of the New York members have been there for different events. It is just a great place. And as you can see from the empty street, this is 2nd Avenue. It's just never usually this empty on 2nd Avenue, even late at night. Okay, I continued my walk down the East River Park, and this is the Williamsburg Bridge, or the Willie B, as we like to say. And that's the a nice empty park bench. Actually, on this day I went there were quite a few people jogging through here pretty quickly and social distancing. And in the background, you can see the development of the Domino Sugar Factory across the river there. And we're going to continue now through the park. This is just a little bit down from that bench. You can still see the bridge in the background. And this is sort of a water park. During the summer, it's full of spray and fountains and kids frolicking around and jumping on the backs of the seals. So again, this time very quiet. And I don't usually do the sort of coming at you kind of stuff, but I just wanted to get that tail coming right out at you. I think that works pretty well. All right, this is of course the Brooklyn Bridge, and this spot is where everybody stands to take their selfies. I have never been able to take a picture like this from there before without getting somebody in the foreground. but very unusual and very, very quiet down in that part of town these days. Okay, continuing my walk. This was actually during the day of the stock market, when they had the record kind of increased when they passed the stimulus package. I'm sure it was hustling and bustling on the inside at social distancing, but outside, which is usually just packed with people around the middle of the day, is a ghost town. Very unusual. That's Broad Street and Wall Street right there. Okay, this I just wanted to show, it's not a super, doesn't have a lot of 3D, it's sort of a wide shot, but I just wanted everyone to see the Oculus, the new World Trade Center transportation hub. That is usually completely full of kiosks and just little ants, people running around on those several levels to all the different stores, including the Apple store, which is on 2 levels on the left there, completely just empty. It reminds me of the day it opened when I walked in and took a bunch of pictures of it the day it opened. And this is in the same place. This is the PATH station to New Jersey. Hello to all the people in the Garden State today. Usually this, of course, is just packed with people all times of day. I love the architecture. A lot of the themes of my photography is sort of architecture, New York architecture. That's why I shoot with wide angle lenses. And so again, this was just stunning to see all of this wide open and empty. Okay, heading back from downtown, this was coming up through Little Italy and Chinatown. And I'm sure everyone knows when you walk through there any time of day, you pretty much have to almost walk out in the street to get that, to go anywhere, because the sidewalks are just so completely packed. I also love taking murals. I have a few other shots for another show, some great murals around. But this is just astonishing, empty Hester Street area. Okay, and this is my last one. This is in Tompkins Square Park, right here in the East Village. A good friend of mine, Jim Conboy's brother, unfortunately passed away the Friday after everyone was sort of locked down. He did not die of COVID, he died of a stroke, but his family weren't allowed to gather to have a memorial or a funeral for him. And Jim and his wife are both artists. And so Jim put together this really moving tribute that's very interactive. And over the time, people have been adding to it, and Jim updates the figures that are written there on the mirror. And it's just quite a moving tribute. And if anyone is in the East Village area, please just check it out. It is still there. And that wraps up my slides. And thank you again, everyone. Now back to you, John.
Jamie, that was fantastic. Or Mr. Smith, as it were. I am John Zelenka, the president and co-founder of the NYSA. I've enjoyed many careers. I'm electronic engineer, composer, satellite engineer. I do all kinds of things, later artist. But today, I'm the stereoscopic mischief maker. So that covers most of it anyway. I can also change a tire and open up a stuck jar. So I'm a busy guy. This is a... I mean, who would not take a picture of this as they were just randomly trespassing throughout the Waldorf Astoria? You know, this was at the roof level. I was doing some video work. Anyway, I came upon this wonderful looking statue. It actually is, this statue is usually on Park Avenue over the awning. And I'll read to you some of the stuff that they have, you know, the Waldorf has in their promotion for this. The female figure cast in nickel and bronze rises majestically upward from her perch upon a globe, a perfect symbol for the Waldorf's ideal of excellence. That was on the front. That is, I'm not sure where they redid it, if it's still there, but it was on the Waldorf since 1931. Initially, it was made by an Icelandic artist named Nina, and I can't do it's not possible for me to say this last name, but it's spelled Saemundssson, but the A and E are combined together. Maybe someone out there knows how to pronounce it, but it's going to be Nina today. So Nina was chosen out of 400 different folks. I'm going to move along here and show you another shot of this. I'm not sure if they painted her or why they, you know, other than keeping her out of harm's way when they built the scaffolding. But the detail is amazing. It's an incredible work of art. And obviously they wanted to make sure she didn't fall over. I did this this is what they call the cha-cha. People who shoot may certainly will know it, but I just moved the camera slowly to the side so I can get a good close-up. Hardly anyone's ever going to have this view, so I'm not sure if they paint it. If that's it might even be some protective coating they have on there. But again, it might even be coated with nickel. I'm not sure. Now you could see where the statue normally resides, and that's Park Avenue. The main big fancy entrance to a Waldorf Astoria. Now this, I'm going to try to adjust it. This is on another trip to the Waldorf. I was in a penthouse and ran to the roof to get this shot. This is a building on 57th Street. There was a accident with the crane during Hurricane Sandy, and it actually twisted over and backwards and held up a lot of traffic. Now, as it turns out, you don't have to feel too sorry for them. The price on the apartments, that's an apartment building. It's actually a 90-story high apartment building. It was the tallest at that point, but now they're building them like crazy. 90 stories tall. And just to keep the 90s in perspective, it's also where the apartments were going for 90 million each at the top. So if you have some spare change and you want to move into it, and you get and you get a great view of a bent out of shape crane. Now, this shot is actually also a cha-cha. It's a hyper, but I moved from one side to the other. It's a little complicated to explain, but people in the 3D understand it. But I did it with a zoom. In other words, I zoomed in. This is not a crop. I zoomed in with the W3 camera and kind of moved from one spot to the next. And you really get a startlingly amazing look at that. That shot was in like October of 2012. I took that. This is, I'm going to change this perspective a little bit, if you don't mind. This is a prop for the Lady Gaga tour in 2014. This is backstage at the Madison Square Garden. That was the Lady Gaga Art Rave Art Pop Bowl tour. She sat in this and sang a song. And it also doubles like a King Kong back scratcher. But if you look behind it, you could see a little booth kind of back there. And that's where she would come down. There's a monitor set up so you could see the house, called a spy cam. You could see what the house is up to. And that was where she kind of changed and ran back onto the stage with the incredible energy. Incredible artist, really. This is a shoot using lasers for Maybelline. This would have been, I think, 2014. The camera, the reason you see her arms moving, because she's doing what models do. She's posing and she's moving while these lasers were behind us. Very hazardous situation. The young lady was warned several times, and we were very careful about it. But that she's in a, let's put it this way, you can see a little bit of the laser touching her leg. She's moving. If she wasn't, that would certainly burn a hole in her hose. To the left is the camera that's shooting this. He's out of frame, but it's posed towards that rear laser pointing forward. I'll open this up a little bit. There we go. This is the band Journey at the Jones Beach Theater, which is on the southern shore of Long Island, right next to Jones Beach. They change the name of it constantly because that's the way things are done. It goes from Nikon, it keeps going on and on. But basically, that's the original Jones Beach Theater. If you go where the front of the stage is, was initially a moat. It was basically the entire stage was set up to be surrounded by water. And Guy Lombardo, and if you know Guy Lombardo's name, that's probably I would say that you're an older person. Let's put it that way. But Guy Lombardo was a big band leader. He lived on Long Island. What he would do is he would take his boat and drive into that moat, into that little space between there, and conduct his orchestra from the boat and then go back home. So, all the pizzazz has not been just left it today. There was, people had a really good shtick, and that was a great one. Guy Lombardo was famous for other stuff too, but that seems like a really good bet. Now, the next one is, this is a set for Coldplay on the Milo I can't even say it. Milo X Lotto tour. It was shot in Long Island City. This was a little shoot that was set up. The bright light coming through the window is actually the sun setting. It just happened to be one of those moments. They weren't going to shoot until another 4 hours. It would have been nighttime anyway. But while this was all happening and we were doing rehearsals, the rehearsals were over. This, Apparently, God decided they needed more light somewhere. So this is so gorgeous. And I got to tell you, lasers have been responsible for some of those beautiful things I've ever seen, experiences. And this was just wonderful. I'm glad I could share it with you. Speaking of sharing it with you, this is a zombie wedding for an episode I did for Glam Fairies I produced. Obviously, they're not keeping proper social distancing. They could be injured. Anyway, if it looks like a spooky picture, don't let it bother you. Look to the right. It's actually zombie catering. You're just coming out of catering right here. If you look to the right, you see the guy chatting and having a grand old time. But it was quite a fun shoot. And the actors were very generous, let me get a lot of nice shots. I've got a load of these. Someday I'll show them to you. This is another part of my life. I'm engineered this installation for the satellite antenna at an Earth station, we can call it. It's located on the west side of Manhattan between 57th and 58th Street. And those are folks installing it. This was done for CBS Sports. And to explain how these things work, I don't know how a satellite antenna works, but it's very simple. The spacecraft's at 23,000 miles away. That gadget, it has about an 8-watt transmitter. So it needs to be amplified. First, the antenna amplifies it, points it towards that little piece up at the top, which is the feed horn. And all those things coming out are amplifiers. So it's passively amplified by the antenna. Then it's amplified further by those things. It runs down to a wire, pops into a gadget, now pops football. And this is my last shot. This is another one of those hypers where I had to move the camera. This is facing north. This is the south side. This is facing north in Manhattan. It was shot from an interesting place, which is 32 Avenue of the Americas, which is the old AT long distance building. It's solid. It's just a big, solid building. If you ever want to come, you should see it. If you ever were in New York, it's really worth seeing. The lobby has a great mural on it, which has peace through communications, because where I'm standing in that building was where the original transatlantic cable was terminated. There's actually a hole in the basement, a wall which I've been to, and that came through that. Literally went from there all the way under the ocean and popped up in England. This building I'm on actually has, and I got some shots of that for a future date, has vacuum tubes which head out all around the area, down to Wall Street and every place, because that was where when the information came in from Europe, it was shot in a vacuum tube to another building. There's a Western Union building a few blocks away. It's a really interesting place. And it can last, it's a solid building. Anyway, wow, we got a lot of folks on. Stand by one moment. Now here comes the big moment. We're going to shift this over to Max. And let me explain a little bit about Max. Max Clarke is a NYSA member. He does some great work, and we always love the stuff he does. He's a multimedia artist and a stereo photographer whose work has been shown across the country and internationally. Max enjoys using his stereoscopic 3D to explore ways that visual perception relies on not only our eyes, but on our imagination. That is the key, and that's what leads you into all this great stuff, because it's really, your imagination. Anyway, I'm going to hand it over to you, I think, Max.
Yes. So you all probably know what this is. This is the source of all our current problems. This is a computer image of the coronavirus. And what I had the idea of doing a couple weeks ago was I had seen some computer animations of the virus and various things related to the virus. And I thought maybe I would do a little exercise in found stereo. Found stereo is one term for it, found 3D. It's when you take images usually from a video or a film, some kind of moving image where either the camera is moving, usually side to side, or an object is moving side to side or rotating. And you can grab two different frames from that footage and create a left and a right image that can be merged into a stereo pair. And so that's what I was able to do here. I found some computer animation of the virus and grabbed some successive images in order to create a stereo image. Now, I'm not a virologist or any kind of an expert, but I have kind of learned a little bit about the virus in the process of putting these images together. And about all I can tell you is that about this image is that one of the most important parts of the virus that you're looking at here are these little projections on the outside that are rendered in red. They're not actually, that's not actually true color, but a lot of the animations show these little spikes on the outside of the virus in red just to distinguish them. And they're actually called spike proteins. And they have a very specific function. For one thing, they give the coronavirus its name because they look kind of like a corona, like the sun's corona. Corona is just Latin for crown. So it's a sort of crown on the outside of the virus. And of course, the coronavirus we're dealing with now is just one of a whole category of coronaviruses. So they all look similar to this, and in that they have these spikes on the outside. Now, before I show you my other images, I'm going to just quickly show you how I put this one together, and that'll give you kind of an idea of how all the other ones were created as well. So I'm going to pull up here YouTube video, and this is actually the video that I used to make that last image. So I'll just wind it back a little bit and actually play the video, and you'll see that it's a rotating computer model. So in order to create that image, I simply stopped the video. I took a screenshot. Then I played the video again for just a moment, rotated it a little bit, took another screenshot. And when you do that, you've got a left and a right image. You've got basically, you're looking at this spherical virus from two different angles. And I think I had to do it a couple times to get a good pair that actually went together well. But it's not that hard to do if you have any sort of image manipulation skills. You can put something like that together. Oh, and I see us in the chat. Ron had an interesting suggestion, which is simply offsetting the video, and then you'd get a stereo video. And yes, that would definitely work. That's a great idea. I'll have to try that. I have an art project that I've done that is built around that idea, using rotating spheres. As long as they're rotating at a constant rate, you just have to offset them a little bit, and you can get a 3D video image. Anyway, so that's the essence of how I put these images together. Now let me go back and just show you a few more that I created the same way. So we're back looking at the still images, and this is an image of a close-up image of the spike protein, one of the spikes on the outside of the virus. Again, this is not an actual image. This is a computer image, but my understanding is that it is relatively accurate in terms of the molecular structure and shape. And I was able to find an animation that had a close-up of this protein, and they were rotating it just enough for me to grab a couple images and put this together. And the secret of the spike protein, as I understand it, is that it fits right into receptors that we have on the outside of our cells, and it's like a key going into a lock. And once it fits into that receptor, it's essentially opening up a portal into the cell, and the virus can then dump all of its genetic material into the cell and hijack it and start using it as a factory to make new viruses. That takes me to the next slide. And this is a little fragment of RNA, which is the genetic material of the virus. So this is actually what gets injected into our cells when one of these viruses connects to it using the spike protein. This is what gets injected. This is the payload, and this is basically all of the genetic instructions needed to produce a new virus. What's kind of remarkable and kind of scary about these viruses is that they are actually injecting lots and lots of copies of this RNA blueprint. It's not just one, it's a lot going in. So the cell is going to make a whole bunch of viruses. And that brings me to my final image. I saved the best for last. So this is a cutaway view of a virus particle. You can see the spike proteins on the outside there. And what you see on the inside, I don't know if I think my cursor is visible. This is the RNA, but you can see there's actually a whole lot of little RNA packets. They've kind of set them off in like darker and lighter purple. So you're seeing lots and lots of copies of the RNA kind of arranged in this spiral form. So once this cell connects, once this virus particle connects to a cell, it's flooding it with little copies of the blueprints, and each one of those little pieces of RNA is enough to make a new virus. So that's basically my little tour of the coronavirus in 3D. I hope it was educational and interesting. It's not necessarily the most uplifting subject, but I think it's something that is worth knowing about. And that's all I've got. So I'm going to throw it back to you, John, and take it away.
Thank you, Max. I must say, happy epidemic to you.
Yes, indeed.